Let's be ambitious. Okay. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Good day? Yeah? Hi. Bruce Harwood, Director of Enterprise Media at Aetna. I want to start with you. So we're going to talk about insurance. We aren't going to talk about underwear, I'm sorry. But we are going to, I think, dig a little bit into the state of the industry, the state of social media right now. But I want to start with just you. How did you come to be in this role? How did you come to be at Aetna? What was attractive to you about working at a big insurance company?
Yeah, absolutely. Insurance, so sexy at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. So I started my career at PhD. It's a Omnicom shop, and I worked there for about 5 years. It's a pretty large media agency. And when I was leaving that, I decided that I wanted to find a place where both media and creative were going to work together. And so I went to a small boutique agency called Media Kitchen, and that was a full service agency. It was connected to KBS. I think both of those brands are gone now. Yeah, you can confirm. Not because of me. I didn't do anything. But I worked there for about 6 years, and that's where I feel like I honed my skills. Working with the creative team, working with the PR team. I really like the idea of we would go into a client with someone from every single different part of a marketing operations, and we would help them figure it out from a PR perspective, from a messaging perspective, from a site perspective, from a media perspective. And so I think using those skills after 6 years is when I transitioned over to Aetna 5 years ago, which the fact that I've been at Aetna for 5 years, I think with the pandemic, just felt like it flew by. I made my way over to Aetna with from a buddy of mine that I made at Media Kitchen, and we've actually kind of been recruiting one another. He came to Media Kitchen, I recruited him there. He left, I recruited him back. He went to Aetna, he recruited me, and so we've been recruiting each other back and forth throughout most of our career right now. So it's worked out. But Aetna's been great. We kind of break up. I work in enterprise media. We break up Aetna between government, which is Medicare and Medicaid. He works on those sides of the business. I work on commercial. So commercial insurance is probably what you guys are all used to when you think of Aetna. That's most of Aetna's business is commercial, but our two growth engines are one, Medicare, and then two, ACA, the Affordable Care Act, which is kind of our growth engine at Aetna. And so that's what I've been spending a lot of my time on is those ACA exchanges. We've in prep for this, we talked about how every single American is a potential customer of yours. That's extreme reach. That's reach in the most extreme scenario. How do you think about segmenting, and you can take the broader business or just your piece of the business? How do you think about segmenting messaging? I'm jumping right in to reach everyone, literally every person. Hanky panky, can't say that. We do. I mean, what's exciting about working at Aetna is we have a product for everyone, no matter what your age is, what your income is, what your employment status is. We have a product that could work for you. And so it is figuring out how do we tailor the right product to the right person, but then even going down into how do those people want to be messaged to. And so we do a lot of segmentation work. A couple of the segments that I'll share that I kind of like, we segment out the entire population based on how they approach their healthcare. So there's the segment that has the spreadsheets and knows exactly what a copay and a premium and a deductible is, and knows exactly what they paid for the past 5 years and can kind of bring it up on their computer. Those people we don't need to market to all that much. We just kind of need to let them know here's what our products are this year, and they'll kind of come to us. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there's kind of what we call the disengaged minimalists. These are the people that only go to the doctor when they're hurt. They know they have to sign up for health insurance, but they just want to do it as quickly and painlessly as possible. They just want to check the box. And so, Esurance as a company kind of built their entire brand on targeting these people. If you remember the quote by print and making it as easy as possible. So we have to tailor the message to these people of come to our website. We'll make sure to get you the right plan, and we'll get you in and out as quickly as possible. So I think figuring out this segmentation means that we can figure out the messaging, and then we partner with a bunch of dynamic creative optimization partners to make sure that we're serving the right messaging to the right person at the right time. That sounds like a cliche, but you gotta.
So it's been a tough year economically. You have every single American to reach with distinct messaging. We know that social platforms operate very differently, even than the rest of digital, even than the rest of taking into account everything else you have to think about. How do you make decisions that most effectively reach all those people across all of social? Like, how do you think about that, especially when every dollar counts more than it's probably counted in the past?
Yeah, and every dollar needs to count even more so now because of this potential recession, or are we calling it a recession yet? We're not even really sure, but we're kind of going into it. And look, from our industry, we definitely see it. If we look at what's happening in Meta and Twitter's a little bit of a different animal, but Amazon, we're definitely seeing a advertiser slowdown. And I think what's really interesting about the advertiser slowdown is it's not happening in what I like to call the nice to haves. Like, it's not happening in like the Pinterest and the Twitter Spaces and the brand integrations. It's happening in paid search, which I think was the most shocking thing to me. Like, paid search is not sexy. Like, no one goes to their CMO and is like, we're doing these great things in paid search. But we are seeing people pull back spending in paid search, which means that, this is legitimate, and that people are making decisions based on, okay, we're going to pull back advertising, even though we know that that's going to affect growth. So what does that mean for Aetna? It means that we need to be really smart about our test and learn strategy. We have this kind of 5-year test and learn strategy that we've executed, and we don't want the recession to just put a pause on that. And so what it means is we need to be really smart about the tests that we do implement, and it means we need to move up the learnings from those tests to get those learnings much faster. So instead of doing a test and learning something that might affect 2 or 3 years down the road, we need to make sure that those learnings hit this fiscal year. And so we can go to the CFO and we can say, we're going to test this, we need $3 million to test it, but we're going to optimize as we go, and we think we're going to grow enrollments by 20% because of this test.
What is your take on brand performance? Was that what we heard back here earlier? The combination of branding and performance as a metric, and how important they both are. How do you do both with a constrained budget, quicker test parameters? How do you think about that?
I love that. I'm stealing that term.
I am too.
That's really good.
He's gone. We can take it. I don't think
He'll know.
He'll never know.
One of the things that we're thinking about is I think one of the mistakes that we make is we just share all metrics. If we have the metric, let's just use it, let's share it as broadly as possible. And I think that's a mistake that when I first got to Aetna, I made. Is like, wait, we're not tapping into all these metrics, and I can give you, like, even an easy one is like video completion rate. Like here I was like going around bragging about our 83% video completion rate. My CFO doesn't care about video completion rate. Like, that doesn't mean anything to them. So we need to get really smart about what are the metrics that we do share out, and do those metrics actually have an effect on revenue. And so I like what was the term? Brand performance. Brand performance, that's good. So I think it's figuring out, if we have top of the funnel tactics, like if we have TV running, if we have radio running, even social to a big extent, how can those affect lower funnel tactics, and then how can we, I like the new lighting, attribute those to actual revenue? Yep, it's gone. That's our post 4 p.m. lighting.
The lighting really screwed me up. I brag about VCR metrics too, so if I shouldn't be doing that, someone should tell me, because I get excited about VCR. No?
No, and we should get excited. I think we just need to tie it to revenue. I think, and look, marketers love video completion rate and talking about video completion rate, but I think just when talking to the CFO, we need to connect the dots better.
You're so right. So through the lens of just social, right? You've said we're in a tailspin. Social is chaos right now, right? There's like every minute we checked our watches as we were prepping to see what the latest thing had happened was. How do you plan how do you plan based on new assumptions when the assumptions are changing daily, right? So like take someone like Twitter. You don't have to specifically talk about your Twitter buy, but things you knew to be true on Twitter maybe look different now. Or you have a very fast-moving upstart like TikTok, where you need to understand how this entirely new social platform functions for you as a brand organically from a paid perspective for your customers. How do you make sense of that? Who are the teams you rely on, et cetera?
Yeah, speaking about TikTok in particularly, I feel this is going to sound so silly, but I'm saying it anyway. A few years ago, so this is all the way back in like 2018, we were trying to grow a Hispanic audience in Miami. And so we were going through all the different options that we could do. And we have these sales teams on the ground that we get a lot of good feedback from. And one of the pieces of feedback that we got from the Miami team is that there's this dance instructor that posts YouTube videos, and the Hispanic community, particularly the older Hispanic community, can't get enough of it. So we reached out to him and just sponsored his YouTube channel and put up some Aetna signage, and it was great. And we actually saw Miami take off. But now I feel like with TikTok, every grandmother is doing, a dance number, and so it's like less special. But I feel like we did it first. I feel like Aetna invented TikTok.
You heard it here first.
So I think it's like finding things like that. YouTube, for all intents and purposes, is a social media engine, and so it's figuring out how to marry the right audience with the right messaging.
So part of that is contextual around how people interact on the platform they're on, right? So if we talking about Nextdoor, local is incredibly important to me. I work at Nextdoor, which is built on the premise of proximity, community, trust. That is a different Aetna consumer potentially than someone who is a disengaged minimalist. I was going to say millennial because millennials do tend to be a little disengaged. How does Aetna, I think about proximity local as it relates to social versus we traditionally think about social as mass, right?
Yeah, 100%. One of my favorite stories from my time working at Aetna is someone, I think it was in the Maryland market, and they wanted to grow Medicare subscriptions. This isn't about digital, but stay with me. So literally, they were in the sales team, and we were kind of going back and forth, and I was helping them about how we could get into different retiring communities and how we can really reach that 65 plus. What she ended up doing after work is going to a store, filling up her truck with a few dozen pumpkins, and hosting a pumpkin carving contest at a retirement community. She walked out of that retirement community with 12 enrollments. The ROI on that is like the best media company in the world could never match that ROI. She spent a couple $100s and got like hundreds of thousands of revenue just from that one interaction. So I always like to think about that of yes, we have first party and third party and multi-touch attribution, but also it's just about community and it's just about face-to-face interaction, and how can we make sure that when we talk about community, it's not always just in a digital sense, and we can use a partner like Nextdoor to kind of build an online community that then we can shift to some sort of offline interaction.
Brand Innovators needs to be in touch with that woman because she should be up here having her own panel.
Completely.
So what else? So in thinking about community, you serve literal communities. What are some other communities that you have to think about serving, and how does that incorporate into your media messaging?
Yeah, so the biggest one that we're focusing on right now is the Affordable Care Act. And the Affordable Care Act is a really tough one because it's not, if you make under a certain household income, then you qualify for Medicaid. So you're going to sign up for that. If you're at a job where you have commercial insurance, you're going to sign up for that. That makes more sense. If you're over 65, you're going to sign up for Medicare. But if you fall within a certain household income and a certain age, then you're going to sign up for ACA, and these plans make sense. And so we have to be really specific about who we target, and so we're frankly still figuring it out. This is only the second year that we've been back on the ACA Obamacare exchanges, but it is using a lot of first and third party data to figure out, should we be targeting Uber drivers or artists or part-time employees or, stay-at-home parents? Who is the right audience that is signing up for these plans and then going after them?
How's it working?
This year, really well. First year was a little rough, I'll just be honest. But so far, it's really become our growth engine. And so I think for the longest time, commercial has been our biggest revenue generator. Then Medicare was our growth engine. We've kind of expanded to the 48 state footprint for Medicare. And so now ACA has really become our growth engine. And so, it's easy to have 200% growth when you're in year 2. It's harder to have that growth when you're year 3, 4, and 5.
So that was going to be one of my later questions, but let's do it now. What does year 3, 4, and 5 look like at Aetna? What does the future have in store for you?
Yeah, that's tough. If anyone says what 5 years is going to look like, they're lying. So let's just start there, right? So let's talk about So CVS bought Aetna about 3 or 4 years ago. So let's talk about what CVS Health is going to look like in 5 years, because once again, I have no idea. But we do know that we want to change the thinking of healthcare. And so healthcare, when we think about it, it's in a windowless room. You're sitting on that parchment paper bench or whatever, and you have a provider in front of you. It doesn't always have to be that way. And so I think the pandemic really accelerated virtual care, and I think we're going to continue going into that space, and some people are really comfortable with virtual care. The pandemic also meant that a bunch of people were streaming into CVS's to get shots and boosters. A lot of people had never used a MinuteClinic before. The first time they used a MinuteClinic was to get their COVID shot. And so how can we make sure that we're keeping that going and saying that we don't just offer COVID shots, but you can also use MinuteClinic for a bunch of other healthcare needs. And then I think the other thing, if it's not virtual and if it's not in your pharmacy, then it could be at your house, CVS Health is thinking a lot about. Sometimes it's a lot more efficient just to send the provider to the person's home and meet with them directly. And if that makes it, if that's an option that they want to pursue, then we want to make sure we have that open to them. And so I think the next 5 years is going to be redefining healthcare to be a lot less about going to visit your provider at their doctor's office and figuring out what is the right option to meet with to make sure that we're achieving the health insurance.
That's so interesting, because in social, we talk about meeting a user where they are, in the mindset that they are. And so to think about healthcare, something so fundamental as having to do that same thing, is really interesting. You're meeting people where they are, where they need you.
Can I put the same question to you? What's Nextdoor in 5 years?
Ooh. My team is here. Team?
Yeah.
I think really importantly will be the evolution of what local business really means. So we, at the founding of the company, thought about local businesses as mom and pop shops, or neighbor for hire, somebody who's cutting your grass, or a local plumber, and supporting those local businesses. I think the evolution for us on the enterprise side is thinking about CVS as a local business, right? Not just a giant enterprise, but with a distinct pharmacist, with a distinct neighborhood, with a distinct personality. And so a lot of the work that we're doing is around what is the connective tissue between HQ and a CMO, and then the local team who's working in those communities, and then how does that show up from both a paid and an organic perspective. So my dream would be that we have product that supports that in the next couple of years, and I think there's more to come there.
I love that. I love that you're also benefiting from, I won't say, but it feels like you're benefiting from all this vitriol that's happening on other social networks, whereas you guys are really going in on community and neighborhoods and being there for your neighbor instead of, your new owner yelling at people through Twitter and firing people over Twitter.
That's a very sad scenario for sure. It's true, and I think we both work in the business of trust also. So there's nothing more personal to someone than their health, except maybe their home address and the house in which their family lives. And so when we're signing folks up to Nextdoor, it's verified home address. We're asking you to post and ask for recommendations or help or questions if there's a wildfire or if there's a flood or if you need a vaccine and you can't access one. There are all of these really kind of intimate moments where we show up in communities and in neighbors' lives. And so it's really important to us that trust is at the foundation of that. I guess to put it back, we talked about the NPS score for insurance on the whole being pretty low. I think you said it can be a hated industry.
So throughout my career, I worked at a telecom, I worked at an energy utility, and now I work at health insurance. And the three things that all of those have in common are you only come in contact with them, A, when something goes wrong, or B, when you're paying the bill. Those are the only times that you come in contact. And so at Aetna, we're trying to think, what could be that third touch point? And I think marketing can be that third touch point. And so we're thinking of how can we use marketing to make sure that the only time that people are interacting with an Aetna is when something goes wrong or when they're paying a bill, because those are not the only touch points that we want with the consumer. And so we're thinking through, marketing can be, we have a partnership with, this is not an Apple Watch, we have a partnership with Apple Watch and Fitbit so that, we make more money when our members are healthier. And so if you show that you are improving your health, then we have kind of a rewards program with both of those smartwatches, and so we actually will give you gift cards and Amazon gift cards and things like that for completing your daily steps. And so I think there's a lot of ways that marketing can kind of fill in that void to try to help that NPS score, because you're right, as of right now, I think, it's not great.
I feel that we need to help you on your next job hunt to be somewhere that's a little more warm and fuzzy is potentially, let us know. Hanky-panky, maybe there, I don't know. Okay, I ultimately, this covered a lot of my questions. I'm sure the audience has some. I don't know where we are on time. Yep, no? We can? Can we kick it over? Anyone?
Adam, I knew you'd have a question.
Adam has a question.
Oh yes, wait for the mic, please.
Hi, I just had a quick question around branding. How does Aetna view branding for each of the different segments? So you covered commercial, ACA. How do you approach that from an awareness point of view?
So it's hard. So you're right. So we have, for ACA, we created this new brand, and it's Aetna CVS Health. We really wanted to drive home that CVS partnership. For Medicare, we created Aetna Medicare Solutions, and then for Medicaid, we created Aetna Better Health. And that was great. And, all three of those brands have distinct entities. I think what you're going to see over the next 5 years is us starting to bring those three brands together. And so we really want to be known as Aetna. And it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to completely do away with having specific brands at the product level, but we're just going to make sure that there is, in everyone's mind, what does the Aetna brand stand for, more so than what does Aetna CVS Health, Aetna Medicare Solutions, Aetna Better Health stand for. We really want to make sure that when people see any of those logos, the mindset that they're thinking of is an Aetna brand instead of a product level brand.
Will we see the Aetna piece of those brands go away and just be kind of the halo over time? Is that?
That's the goal, yeah. And I think more interaction with CVS Health. You'll see we have the heart now, and so we added the CVS Health, we call it a violet heart because purple heart was kind of taken. And so now we have the violet heart in front of the Aetna logo, and I think you're going to see more and more integration with the CVS Health brand.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Rosen?
Hi. Thanks, guys. This is fantastic. So I'm curious, and this might be a question that you have to answer as not a person who works at Aetna. The Amazon care of it all, the Walmart of it all, the verticalization of healthcare of it all, creating new entities that come out from different angles in terms of what they mean to people already and how they're kind of trying to break in from the side to say also healthcare. How do you think about that? Maybe a little bit future forward thinking, what does messaging need to look like? How does differentiation need to be? What does brand feeling need to be in order to continue to stand out given the advantages that Aetna has, especially as part of CVS?
Yeah. I don't want to downplay your question because I think it's a good one. I have for my entire 5 years been getting questions of like, Amazon's coming for you. Amazon's coming for you. And you know, I think we have a lot of competitors. You know, for the health insurance as an industry, there's a lot of competitive clutter. It's a really complex, hard industry to operate in. I think Amazon is learning that and kind of has learned that. And they're on kind of their 5th or 6th iteration of what Amazon Health Insurance, Amazon Care, Amazon Pharmacy, Amazon PillPack might look like. The point of differentiation that I think we now have is we're already in the community. I think over 80% of Americans live within 10 minutes of a CVS pharmacy. And so, you know, that means that since we're in the community, we have that point of differentiation. I think Amazon to build that up is going to take quite a bit of time. But, you know, we'll see. No one knows what the next 5 years is going to hold. Their bookstores didn't do too well.
Any other questions? All right, well, I have one final one to close us out then. I would love to know who you admire, either kind of currently in this landscape or throughout your career. Who is using media buying, marketing as a strategy to reach a consumer in a way that you think is effective, inspirational, motivational? Who do you look up to?
This is going to sound... It really is. So when I started at Aetna, there was there was a CEO of Aetna, obviously, and then we merged with CVS Health, and there was a CEO of CVS Health. They've both been there for a long time. Shortly after the merger, they both left, and the woman that took over, Karen Lynch, came from the Aetna side. Now, that was pretty surprising. Most of the time when a company buys another company, they don't take someone from that company and make them a CEO. She's now the most powerful CMO in the country. She's terrific. She is a world-class communicator, and everyone that works with her absolutely loves her, has tremendous respect for her. And so I'd say just in terms of like communication and communication style, she's someone I really look up to because I think marketing is really all about communication.
What an awesome answer. Is she here? Someone tell her. Awesome. Thanks, Bruce.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Very exciting, very sexy.